Hello and welcome to this, the inaugural video for Bearded Brushstrokes. And what we're going to be doing today is, well, there's a little bit of a clue behind me here. And a little bit of a clue behind me here also. Is going to be an unboxing of the brand new Warhammer 40k quest, Blackstone Fortress. Okay, so I was lucky enough to be able to pre-order Blackstone Fortress, and there's some swag that came along with it, so I thought why not show that off first. Here is one of the little Ziploc bags that you get inside the game. Well, this is a special edition version. As we will discover as we go forward, certain elements of the game need to be preserved between sessions. The difficulty evolves, the characters gain skills, etc. So it's useful to be able to keep track of that. And the way we do it is by putting them into these little bags. So I have a spare. We'll pop that to one side. In Silver Tower, there was a mechanic where one player would be rune marked. This means that some decisions come down to them, including how to move the bad guys, etc. I suspect the same is true of Blackstone Fortress. And they also had the Torchbearer in Shadows over Hammerhal, which was the follow-up there. This is the little poker chip that we use to denote who is the active player or leader in a given round of Blackstone Fortress. So that was a cool little freebie there, which I've just dropped. I'll pop that to one side. Now this initially confused me when I got it. This is actually a Rogue Trader's warrant of trade. So let's get this open. Here we are. So that is what we call a feelie. This is an item that would be given to a character inside the game world that we happen to be able to hold outside. So we have this wonderful little seal here, and then it shows a little bit better on the back, the watermark with the double-headed eagle, some laurels and a couple of skulls. Because it's 40k, what would 40k be without skulls? Now, added to that, you have the two posters which I showed you on the wall behind me at the beginning of this video. Now that we've got my bragging out of the way, let's have a look at the game itself. So let's lift the lid off this very chunky box. Very nice artwork. I'll show you a bit more of that in a moment. The first thing we see when we come into the box, now I have to say this is not my first time of trying to video this. We've had some technical difficulties, so things are not quite as they would be when you open the box, but this is about as close as you're going to get with my box. So one of the great things that GW have been doing over the last year or so is making all of their products as approachable as possible, as usable by pretty much anybody who wants to use them as possible. And one of the advances they've made is these push fit models. Now, as you can see, there are little holes and little pegs that slot into each other on here, and all of the models are presented on slotters or partial slotters with these little, there's a little hexagonal shape on the bottom of his foot there that we use for putting him onto his base. Don't know if you can see that there, wait for it to come into focus. There we are. So we'll pop this chap back here with the bad guys. Another great innovation is that all of the adventurers, here we have Janos Drake and the navigator, here we are, some bits of one of the halflings, including his little mini fridge that he takes into battle with him, all presented here in red plastic, which means immediately you can see the difference between the protagonists and the antagonists. Now imagine that you got this on Christmas Day, then what you would find is you are immediately able to play this game. By Christmas Day afternoon you should be able to play this game and be able to tell the good guys from the bad guys pretty much straight away. So that's fantastic, and all of those, as I say, are push fit and slotter based models. I said I would show you the artwork on the front of the box. There's a much better version here on this separator card, where the only blemish is that that lovely little barcode at the bottom there, but we can pretend that's not there. Okay, so we'll pop that to one side. Very atmospheric artwork, I really like that. Previous versions of the game have had a rulebook and an adventure book. That's not the case with Blackstone Fortress. With Blackstone Fortress we have a rulebook, we have a combat manual, we have data sheets. Now if you also happen to play 40k, this book contains all of the rules for using the models in this box in your 40k armies, so that's fantastic. Precipice, which is a setting, the shops, basically the town that you go back to when you're adventuring to restock and refuel, and then a background lore book on the story so far. I suppose I haven't read it yet, so we'll put that over there. And the other thing you get that was wrapped up in the same plastic bundle there is a little assembly guide. It's your usual Games Workshop fare. Chop the items off of the frames, find where to put it on the model, make the model look like the picture, move on to the next step, and then a little bit of a painting guide just in terms of what things should look like and how we're going to paint them on the back there. So we'll put all of those off to one side. These are the bases for the items, for the models there. I think this is the first time I've ever seen a 32mm slotter base. All of these are slotter bases, which, as I say, confused me until I thought about the ease of use there. Now, as I say, this is not a true unboxing in that some of these things have been unwrapped prior to this point of the video, again due to technical issues I've had with my camera stopping recording in the middle of videos because it ran out of space. So that being said, let's move on first of all to these little Ziploc bags. So remember that one that I got as a special edition. These are the normal versions where we put our characters into stasis or even mark them as dead, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment, because we do actually have permadeath in the Blackstone Fortress, which is kind of exciting and also terrifying at the same time. We have the discovery cards. Okay, so the discovery cards are essentially, I think, similar to the treasure cards in previous versions of Quest. Okay, we've got the stronghold cards. It looks like there are 4 strongholds. These are potentially boss fights. I don't know. We'll see when we get into it. Well, they've got evocative names like the Death Maze, Descent, Corridor of Death, and Null Gravity Abyss. So that should be interesting. Let's see, where should we go next? Now, unlike previous versions of the game, where you are put into initiative order based on essentially where you're sitting and who is the rune mark, the torchbearer, or the leader of the party. These cards here are initiative, and you place them on the initiative track, which I'm sure we'll see later when we get to the cardboard components, which allows the party to be ambushed quite readily, and allows you to track the combats as they go on. I mentioned the permadeath. These are Mortis cards. They go into the stasis bags to mark which characters are now out of the game. Very interesting little envelope this. I have no idea what's in here, and I'm not going to look it up. I'd appreciate if people wouldn't put it in the comments if there are any on this video. This is the Hidden Vault envelope. So we don't open this until the Hidden Vault quest has been completed. It's quite possible that there is another, maybe not exploration card, but probably another encounter or stronghold or discovery card in there. So I'm looking forward to getting to that, and I'm going to do it organically. I may even do it on screen. So we also have resource cards. Now when you go to Precipice, you're able to pick up resources and get in touch with ships like the Steed of Mathria, which is, I believe, an Eldar ship from the spelling and the wording there. Imperial ships as well, like the Clarion, the Vanguard, which is on the poster behind me, the Krav Chateau, which is something to do with the Kroot in here, I believe. And these are all advantages that certain characters can have, I believe, based on the on what resources they're able to pick up in Precipice. So we'll move on to Legacy. Now, one of the wonderful features of this game is that it gets harder, that things change, that you get new bad guys coming into it, different threat levels and things like that. So these are cards that, again, you would put into your little Ziploc bags to preserve things going forward between sessions. Unlike previous versions of the game, we have the Encounter deck. Now, the Encounter deck contains, here we are, similar to the Encounter tables on the back of some of the books in Silver Tower and in Hammerhal, the encounter tables that the GM rolls on. These determine what each encounter group actually is in a given chamber, and they're quite nice because they always have 4 encounters on them. So if you're facing one encounter, you go to encounter 1, and in this case it is Obsidious Malex, the Black Legion leader, 2 Chaos Space Marines and 1 Rogue Psyker. If you had 2, you would have Obsidious Malex and 2 Chaos Space Marines. Do you know, I'm not sure how this works, so we're going to have a look at that when I have a look at the rules later on. Stronghold artifacts. Now, they are encounters, which we'll cover in a moment, in the exploration deck, and there are strongholds, and the strongholds are the main sort of dungeons of the Blackstone fortress, as it were. Okay, and each one clearly has some kind of awesome weapon or item at the end of it that comes under the heading of Stronghold Artifact. The exploration cards, I think, are absolutely genius, and they're beautiful. They represent essentially random encounters. So you have a combat encounter here that has 1, 2, 3 encounter groups on there, and that shows you where to place them, how to set the board up, and which tiles to use, etc. And off you go with that, with the entrances marked here as well. And it just, the idea of having these random sort of ambushes going on throughout the Blackstone Fortress, and also these random challenges, masterful agility. You have characters deal out 1 discovery card for each player and place them face up in a row in leader order. 1 explorer can attempt to take 1 of the cards. In order to take the Archaeotech card, the explorer must make a number of agility rolls equal to the card's value. So they're obviously having to sort of hop, skip and jump around challenges in the fortress to get to cool items and treasures, etc. And loot that's worth taking back out. Now, these are the new character cards. They're very, very interesting in that there's variable numbers of actions on them, and the move values seem to be different. So whereas the default in the other quest products has been move of 3, it's now 2, with particularly fast characters moving 3 in this game. And Now, included in the same kind of format as the character cards, you now have an inspiration mechanic. So they have 2 stat lines. For example, Amelin's Shadow Guide has a move of 3, when inspired has a move of 4, and I'm sure I'll understand all of these stats a bit better later on. There's also the adversary cards. Now, these were in a book before, so this is a fantastic idea, and they also have contextual behaviour tables. Now, I've had games of Silver Tower where I have used the Tenebriel Shard to kite monsters around the dungeon, teleporting from one end to the other, where they haven't really had much say in what they do. So they would roll to stand there and pick their noses one round, or charge towards me, but it doesn't matter because I'm up the other end of the board, and things like that. This allows you to have a bit more realism in your games. So you'll have times when the monsters are hidden, and you would roll a d20 to see what happens, and they might advance or charge towards the enemy. They might just hold and stay hidden, and things like that. So that's much better, much more realistic. We have some dice. I suspect in this version that the black dice are the Destiny dice, because they're different from all of the others. Speaking of dice which are different, we have a d20 as mentioned, a couple of very interesting looking d12s, and some d6s and d8s, which all look slightly out of the ordinary and measure degrees of success on them. There's a lot of board games out there at the moment that are using their own symbols on dice rather than spots and or numbers, so this is quite interesting and unusual to see. Games Workshop keeping up with current trends in board games. Never one to not cross-sell. Games Workshop have included a sample chapter from the companion work with this book, Blackstone Fortress by Darius Hinks. I will be having a read of that. I'll probably let you know what I think. And then we're on to the card sections. Now, the artwork on these is absolutely gorgeous, and here we have those ships, you see, and the initiative tracker, which is this long purple beam here. Stunning artwork on these again, beautiful work done by the Games Workshop art department. And finally, probably most importantly, because this will drive Mrs. Brushstrokes absolutely crackers if we don't have these, are the little baggies to put all the cards and things in to keep them all separate while they're in the box and they don't explode everywhere. Okay, so that is the actual box of Blackstone Fortress. Hello again. Thank you for sticking around. That was my unboxing of Blackstone Fortress, so thank you very much for coming along and watching that. If you want more bearded brushstrokes, I'm sure I'll have some more videos up at some point. If you like this, let me know if there's anything that you would like to see going forward. I also have an Instagram blog where I talk about board games, I talk about miniatures, card games, and mental health, and basically what's going on with me, what's going on with mental health, and how it all relates to hobbies and board games and life in general. So go and check that out. The link is below in the description. I'd really like to be able to buy some more board games and some paints and things like that. So there's a Patreon if you really decide you want to help out there. Please feel free to donate a couple of dollars there if you like. And in the meantime, thank you very much once again for watching. Have a good rest of your day, and be kind to yourself and each other. Bye bye.